In the deepest, darkest corners of the Slavic forest, where the ancient trees grow so thick that sunlight never touches the ground, there exists a figure so terrifying and so mysterious that her very name has haunted the dreams of children for over 1,000 years. She is neither fully human nor entirely spirit. She is not simply good or evil, but something far more complex and dangerous. She is the wild witch of the woods, the bone-legged crone who flies through the night sky in a mortar, steering with a pestle and sweeping away her tracks with a broom made of silver birch. This is not the sanitized fairy tale character you might have encountered in modern children's books. This is something far older, far stranger, and infinitely more powerful. This is Baba Yaga in her truest form, a figure whose roots stretch back into the primordial darkness of pre-Christian Slavic mythology, where she once ruled as a goddess of death and rebirth before being transformed into the most enigmatic witch in all of folklore. But who is she really? What lies behind those iron teeth and that bone leg? Why does she live in a hut that walks on chicken legs, surrounded by a fence made of human skulls? And most importantly, why has this terrifying figure endured for centuries, evolving from ancient goddess to folkloric witch to modern symbol of feminine power? To understand Baba Yaga, we must journey deep into the heart of Slavic culture itself. We must explore the vast forests of Eastern Europe, where the boundaries between the living world and the realm of the dead have always been thin and permeable. We must delve into stories that are far older than Christianity, tales that emerge from a time when the natural world was alive with spirits, demons, and gods who walked among mortals. The story of Baba Yaga is not just the story of a witch. It is the story of how ancient wisdom was preserved in the face of cultural transformation. It is the story of how feminine power was both feared and revered in traditional societies. And it is the story of how the deepest truths about human nature often come disguised as the most frightening tales. Her name itself carries the weight of centuries. In the Slavic languages, Baba means grandmother or old woman, but it carries connotations far beyond simple age. It speaks to the archetype of the wise woman, the crone who holds the secrets of life and death. But Yaga is far more mysterious. Scholars have debated its meaning for generations, linking it to words meaning serpent, horror, anger, and disease across various Slavic languages. Some connect it to terms meaning pain and worry, while others see connections to abuse and exploitation. This linguistic complexity reveals something profound about Baba Yaga herself. She is not a simple character with a straightforward purpose. She embodies contradiction, existing at the intersection of fear and wisdom, destruction and creation, death and rebirth. Her very name suggests that she is both the nurturing grandmother and the terrifying force that brings suffering and transformation. The first written reference to Baba Yaga appears 1755 in Mikhail Lomonosov's Russian grammar, but this was hardly an introduction to an unknown figure. She was already so embedded in Slavic culture that Lomonosov listed her alongside gods and goddesses, treating her as a fundamental part of the mythological landscape. Even more fascinating, she appeared in a section without Roman equivalents, suggesting that even scholars recognized her as uniquely Slavic, a figure so specific to Eastern European culture that she had no parallel in classical mythology. But her written history only scratches the surface. Long before she appeared in grammar books, Baba Yaga lived in the oral traditions of countless Slavic communities. She was the subject of woodblock prints known as lubki in the 1600s and 1700s, carved from linden bark and hung in homes that could not afford more expensive religious icons. These early images show us a figure already fully formed in the popular imagination, complete with her most distinctive features. And what features they are. Baba Yaga is described as bearing iron teeth that can tear through flesh and bone. She has a long, hooked nose and wild, disheveled hair that flows behind her as she flies through the night sky. Her most distinctive physical characteristic is her bone leg, which has earned her the epithet Kostyanaya Noga. This is not merely a description of thinness, but a literal bone leg that connects her to the realm of the dead. Her appearance shifts according to her will and the needs of the story. Sometimes she appears as a towering skeletal figure stretched across her entire hut, reaching from one corner to another. Other times, she transforms into a young woman or splits into multiple sisters, each representing different aspects of her power. She can become any number of animals, from birds and snakes to frogs, mice, and even inanimate objects. This shape-shifting ability marks her as a figure who exists beyond the normal boundaries of physical reality. But it is not just her appearance that makes Baba Yaga so memorable. It is her home, that impossible dwelling that has captured imaginations for centuries. The hut on chicken legs is perhaps the most iconic image in all of Slavic folklore, and like everything else about Baba Yaga, it carries layers of meaning that extend far beyond its surface strangeness. The hut stands deep in the forest, surrounded by a fence made entirely of human bones. The posts are leg bones, the crossbeams are arm bones, and the gate is constructed from jaw bones with sharp teeth. Most terrifying of all, the fence is topped with human skulls, whose empty eye sockets glow with an eerie internal fire, providing the only light in the dark clearing. This is not mere decoration, but a warning and a trophy case, displaying the fate of those who have challenged Baba Yaga and failed her tests. The hut itself defies all natural laws. It stands on two enormous chicken legs that can walk, run, and even dance through the forest. The structure constantly moves, turning and spinning, never showing its door to approaching visitors. Instead, it faces away from the human world, its entrance looking toward the realm of the dead and the supernatural. This positioning is deeply symbolic, representing Baba Yaga's role as a guardian between worlds, a figure who exists at the boundary between life and death. To gain entry to the hut, visitors must know the proper incantation, the magical words that will make the dwelling stop its restless movement and turn to face them. The traditional formula speaks directly to the hut, as if it were a living being. Little hut, turn your back to the forest and your front to me. Only when these words are spoken correctly will the hut obey, lowering itself to the ground and revealing its door. The origin of this strange architectural concept may lie in the practical realities of ancient Slavic life. Archaeological evidence suggests that the chicken-legged hut is based on real structures used by nomadic peoples of Siberia and northern Europe. These were elevated storehouses built on tree stumps, with the spreading roots resembling giant bird feet. Such structures protected valuable supplies from ground moisture and wild animals, and they could indeed be moved by uprooting the stumps and placing them in new locations. But Baba Yaga's hut transcends its practical origins to become something far more mystical. It represents the liminal space between worlds, a doorway that exists neither fully in our reality nor completely in the other world. The fact that it must be summoned and commanded to reveal its entrance suggests that approaching Baba Yaga is not a casual matter, but a ritual act that requires knowledge, respect, and courage. Inside the hut, the impossible continues. The structure is far larger within than its external dimensions should allow, filled with strange chambers and mysterious objects. The air is thick with the smell of herbs, smoke, and something else, something vaguely threatening that visitors can never quite identify. A great stove dominates one wall, used for cooking meals that might include unwary travelers. Tables set themselves with food and drink, and most unsettling of all, disembodied hands float through the air, acting as Baba Yaga's invisible servants. The hut serves as more than just a dwelling. It is a testing ground, a crucible where heroes and heroines must prove their worth. Those who enter do so at their own risk, for Baba Yaga's hospitality comes with a price. She is known to set impossible tasks for her visitors, challenges that seem designed to ensure failure. Yet for those clever enough, brave enough, or pure enough of heart, these tests become opportunities for transformation and reward. This brings us to the most fascinating aspect of Baba Yaga's character, her fundamental ambiguity. She is neither purely good nor entirely evil, but something more complex and unpredictable. She can be the terrifying witch who grinds bones and devours children, or she can be the wise woman who offers magical gifts and life-saving advice. Often, she is both within the same story, her nature shifting based on how she is approached and what the visitor truly deserves. This duality reflects ancient Slavic understanding of the natural world itself. Nature is neither benevolent nor malevolent, but simply powerful, capable of providing abundance or destruction, depending on how humans interact with it. Baba Yaga embodies this natural ambiguity, representing the wild feminine power that exists beyond human moral categories. Her tools and methods of transportation further emphasize her connection to domestic life, transformed into something supernatural. She flies through the sky in a mortar, using a pestle as a rudder and steering through the night with supernatural speed. Behind her, she sweeps away her tracks with a broom made of silver birch, ensuring that her passage leaves no trace for those who might wish to follow. These objects, the mortar, pestle, and broom, are all tools of the traditional household, implements associated with food preparation and domestic maintenance. But in Baba Yaga's hands, they become vehicles of magical power, symbols of how feminine domestic authority can be transformed into something far more potent and dangerous than society expects. The mortar and pestle, normally used for grinding grain and preparing medicines, become Baba Yaga's chariot through the night sky. The broom, typically employed for cleaning and maintaining order in the home, becomes an instrument of concealment and mystery. This transformation of domestic tools into supernatural implements suggests that Baba Yaga represents domestic power unleashed from social constraints, feminine authority freed from patriarchal control. The stories that feature Baba Yaga reveal her true nature as a figure of initiation and transformation. She does not simply appear in tales as a random obstacle or convenient helper. Instead, she serves a specific and profound purpose within the narrative structure of Slavic folklore. She is the guardian of thresholds, the keeper of boundaries, the one who determines whether a soul is ready to pass from one stage of existence to another. This role becomes crystal clear in her most famous appearance, the tale of Vasilisa the Beautiful. This story, collected by the great Russian folklorist Alexander Afanasiev in the 19th century, represents one of the most complete and psychologically sophisticated examples of Baba Yaga's function as a supernatural mentor and judge. Vasilisa's journey begins, as so many transformative tales do, with loss and abandonment. Her beloved mother dies, leaving the young girl with only a small wooden doll as protection. This doll is no ordinary toy, but a magical guardian that embodies the wisdom and love of the maternal line. Before her death, Vasilisa's mother gives her daughter specific instructions about the doll's care and use, establishing it as a direct link to ancestral feminine power. The girl's father eventually remarries, bringing into their home a stepmother and two stepsisters who view Vasilisa's beauty and gentle nature as a threat to their own prospects. They subject her to endless labor and constant torment, hoping to break her spirit and diminish her radiance. But each night, Vasilisa feeds her doll a small portion of her meager food and tells it her troubles. In return, the doll comes alive and completes all the impossible tasks set for her while she sleeps. This magical assistance allows Vasilisa to endure her suffering without being destroyed by it. Her beauty and grace actually increase despite the harsh treatment, which only intensifies her stepfamily's jealousy and hatred. They realize that conventional cruelty cannot break this girl, so they devise a more sinister plan. The stepmother moves the family to a house at the very edge of the deep forest, a location everyone knows belongs to Baba Yaga. On a dark autumn evening, She deliberately extinguishes every flame in the house, plunging them into complete darkness. She then announces that someone must journey to their only neighbor to ask for fire. The stepsisters refuse in mock terror, knowing full well that their neighbor is the terrible witch who devours travelers. The task falls to Vasilisa, as her stepmother always intended. This moment marks the true beginning of Vasilisa's initiation. She is being deliberately sent into mortal danger, cast out from the safety of home and family into the realm of the supernatural. It is a death sentence disguised as a household errand, and everyone involved knows it. Yet Vasilisa accepts the task with quiet courage, trusting in her doll and the protection of her mother's love. Her journey into the forest is a passage through increasingly dangerous and otherworldly territory. The path grows darker and more twisted with each step. Strange sounds echo from the shadows, and she feels the weight of invisible eyes watching her progress. The very air seems to thicken with supernatural energy as she moves deeper into Baba Yaga's domain. Then she witnesses the first of the great mysteries. A rider gallops past her, dressed entirely in white and mounted on a pure white horse. His face shines with its own inner light, and as he passes, the darkness of night begins to recede, replaced by the pale grey light of dawn. Vasilisa watches in wonder, but continues on her way, understanding that she has entered a realm where the fundamental forces of nature take physical form. Later, as the sun climbs high in the sky, a second rider appears. This one is clothed in brilliant red and rides a horse the color of fresh blood. His face blazes like the sun itself, and as he passes, the full glory of midday settles over the forest. Again, Vasilisa witnesses this supernatural manifestation with awe, but does not allow it to deter her from her mission. Finally, as evening approaches and she draws near to her destination, a third rider thunders past. He is dressed in deepest black, his face dark as shadow, mounted on a horse as black as the void between stars. He rides directly through the gates of Baba Yaga's domain and vanishes. Instantly, night falls like a curtain, bringing with it a darkness so complete it seems to swallow sound itself. These three riders are Baba Yaga's faithful servants, the personifications of day, sun, and night. Their appearance reveals the cosmic scope of her power. She is not merely a witch living in the woods, but a force that commands the very turning of time itself. The young girl seeking a simple light has stumbled into the domain of a being who controls the fundamental rhythms of existence. The clearing where Baba Yaga's hut stands is illuminated only by the ghostly fire that burns within the skull-topped fence posts. The sight fills Vasilisa with terror, but her doll trembles in her pocket, giving her courage to approach. She speaks the traditional words, asking the hut to turn and face her, and slowly, with great creaking and groaning, the impossible structure obeys. When Baba Yaga returns home, she arrives in her characteristic manner, flying through the air in her mortar with tremendous noise and commotion. The trees groan under the force of her passage, and the very air howls with supernatural wind. She lands in her courtyard, sniffs the air with her long nose, and immediately detects the presence of a human visitor. Her first reaction is not welcoming. She shrieks about the smell of Russian flesh and demands to know who dares enter her domain. But when Vasilisa steps forward and respectfully explains her mission, addressing the witch as grandmother and showing proper deference, Baba Yaga's demeanor shifts. She does not become kind, but she becomes businesslike, outlining the terms under which she might provide the requested fire. Vasilisa must earn her reward through labor. Baba Yaga sets her a series of tasks that appear utterly impossible for any mortal to complete. She must clean the entire hut, cook elaborate meals, and most challenging of all, separate a massive pile of wheat from an equally large mixture of dirt and poppy seeds, sorting every single grain by hand. All of this must be accomplished by the time the witch returns from her daily travels, or Vasilisa will be killed and eaten. Left alone with these impossible demands, Vasilisa initially despairs. The task of sorting grain from dirt and seeds would take weeks of careful work, yet she has only hours. But then she remembers her mother's gift. She takes out the wooden doll, offers it a portion of her food, and explains her desperate situation. The doll's eyes begin to glow with inner light, and it speaks in a tiny, wise voice, telling Vasilisa to eat her supper, say her prayers, and go to sleep, for morning is wiser than evening. Trusting in this ancient wisdom, Vasilisa does as instructed. While she sleeps peacefully, the doll works through the night, summoning invisible helpers, birds, mice, and insects, who sort the grain with supernatural efficiency. When Baba Yaga returns the next day, she finds every task completed to perfection. She is simultaneously impressed and enraged, bound by the ancient laws of magic to honor the girl's success, but frustrated by her inability to find fault with the work. Unable to punish Vasilisa, she sets even more difficult tasks for the following day, each one designed to be more impossible than the last. But night after night, the doll performs its miracles. Vasilisa never sees exactly how the work is done. She simply trusts, rests, and awakens to find her trials overcome. This pattern reveals something profound about the nature of feminine wisdom and intuitive power. Vasilisa succeeds not through force or cleverness, but through faith in the wisdom passed down through generations of women. After several days of this pattern, Baba Yaga recognizes that she has been defeated by a power greater than her own. The girl is protected by something ancient and strong, something that even the terrible witch must respect. Grudgingly, she agrees to provide the fire that was requested, but first, she allows Vasilisa to ask questions about the mysteries she has witnessed. Remembering her doll's counsel about the danger of knowing too much, Vasilisa asks only about the 3 riders she saw on her journey. Baba Yaga explains that the white rider is her bright day, the red rider is her red sun, and the black rider is her dark night. These are her faithful servants who carry out her will across the world. When the witch asks why Vasilisa does not inquire about other mysteries she has witnessed inside the hut, the girl wisely responds that excessive knowledge can be dangerous. This answer pleases Baba Yaga greatly, for it shows that Vasilisa has learned one of the most important lessons about dealing with supernatural powers, the wisdom of knowing when not to ask questions. Having passed all tests, including this final examination of her discretion and wisdom, Vasilisa has earned her reward. But the fire Baba Yaga provides is no ordinary flame. She takes one of the skulls from her fence, a skull whose eye sockets burn with supernatural fire, mounts it on a stick, and hands it to the girl as a lantern. This gift is both reward and weapon, a tool of justice that will serve Vasilisa well in the trials yet to come. The skull lantern represents the power of the other world, a force that can illuminate truth and punish wickedness. It is a fitting prize for one who has survived the ultimate test of character and wisdom. The journey back through the forest is transformed by the supernatural light of the skull lantern. Where once Vasilisa walked in terror through the dark woodland paths, she now moves with confidence, the eerie glow of her otherworldly torch driving back every shadow. The ancient trees that had seemed so menacing on her journey toward Baba Yaga's domain now shrink away from the skull's piercing gaze. Wild beasts flee from its light, and even the spirits of the forest dare not approach. This return journey represents more than just a physical passage back to the world of the living. It is a symbolic transformation, the final stage of an initiation that has fundamentally changed who Vasilisa is. She is no longer the frightened girl who was sent into the woods to die. She has become something new, a bearer of supernatural power, a young woman who has looked into the face of death itself and emerged victorious. But the skull lantern is not merely a source of protection. It is an instrument of justice, and its true purpose will soon be revealed. During her absence, Vasilisa's stepmother and stepsisters have been unable to kindle any fire in their home. Every attempt to strike a spark has failed. Every flame they try to borrow from neighbors immediately dies. They have been forced to live in cold darkness, a fitting preview of the judgment that awaits them. When Vasilisa returns home, her family rushes to greet her, relieved to see the light she carries and eager to benefit from her success. They welcome her back with false warmth, pretending concern for her welfare, while secretly rejoicing that their cruel plan has somehow resulted in obtaining the fire they need. But as she steps across the threshold and enters their home, the skull's burning eyes fix upon the three wicked women. The supernatural gaze penetrates their souls, seeing every cruel thought, every malicious deed, every moment of petty jealousy and deliberate harm they have inflicted upon the innocent girl. The light intensifies, becoming unbearably bright, filling every corner of the house with its otherworldly radiance. The stepmother and her daughters try to flee, seeking refuge in dark corners and hidden spaces, but there is nowhere to hide from the skull's all-seeing vision. The fire of judgment burns through them, not with physical flames, but with something far more powerful and absolute. It scorches their very essence, consuming the wickedness that has defined their existence. By morning, all that remains of the three tormentors is a small pile of fine grey ash, swept away by the wind like the remnants of their own cruelty. This supernatural justice is not murder in any conventional sense. Vasilisa has not killed her oppressors through her own hand or will. Instead, she has served as the instrument through which cosmic justice operates. The skull lantern represents the power of truth itself, a force that rewards virtue and punishes evil according to laws far older and more fundamental than human morality. With her tormentors destroyed and her trials completed, Vasilisa buries the skull lantern in her garden, ensuring that its dangerous power can harm no other innocent person. She leaves the cursed cottage behind forever, carrying with her the wisdom and strength she has gained through her encounter with Baba Yaga. Her story ends not with revenge, but with transformation, as she goes on to live a life of prosperity and fulfillment, forever changed by her journey into the realm of the supernatural. This tale of Vasilisa and Baba Yaga reveals the deeper purpose behind the witch's seemingly random cruelty and kindness. She is not simply a monster who devours travelers or a benevolent fairy godmother who grants wishes. She is something far more complex and profound, a guardian of thresholds who determines whether souls are ready to pass from one stage of existence to another. Every aspect of her character serves this fundamental role. Her terrifying appearance tests courage. Her impossible tasks measure determination and resourcefulness. Her questions probe wisdom and discretion. Those who approach her with respect, complete their assigned duties, and show proper judgment are rewarded with gifts that can transform their lives. Those who fail these tests become additions to her grisly fence, warnings to future travelers about the price of inadequacy or arrogance. This pattern appears throughout Slavic folklore, not just in the story of Vasilisa, but in countless other tales where heroes and heroines must confront the bone-legged witch. Sometimes she appears as a single figure, sometimes as three sisters of varying ages and temperaments, but always she serves the same essential function. She is the examiner, the one who separates the worthy from the unworthy, the mature from the childish, the wise from the foolish. Her hut on chicken legs serves as the perfect symbol for this role. It exists at the boundary between worlds, neither fully in our reality nor completely in the other world. It must be summoned through proper ritual, approached with correct knowledge, and entered only by those brave enough to face whatever lies within. The fence of human bones surrounding it tells the story of all those who have attempted this passage and failed, their remains serving as both warning and testament to the seriousness of the trial ahead. The three mysterious riders who serve Baba Yaga, her bright day, red sun, and dark night, reveal the cosmic scope of her authority. She is not merely a local witch with limited power, but a fundamental force of nature, a being who commands the very rhythm of time itself. The day begins and ends at her bidding, The sun rises and sets according to her will, and the darkness of night answers to her call. This places her far above ordinary supernatural beings, positioning her as a primal goddess whose influence extends across all of creation. Yet despite this cosmic authority, Baba Yaga remains intimately connected to the domestic. Her mortar and pestle, implements realm through her tools, and dwelling of food preparation transformed into vehicles of flight, represent the elevation of feminine domestic power to supernatural heights. Her broom, traditionally used for cleaning and maintaining household order, becomes an instrument of magical concealment. Even her hut, despite its impossible mobility, remains fundamentally a home, complete with stove, furniture, and the basic necessities of domestic life. This connection between the cosmic and the domestic reveals something profound about how Slavic culture understood feminine power. Women were seen as the keepers of the household, responsible for the daily maintenance of life through cooking, cleaning, healing, and nurturing. But this domestic authority was recognized as containing within it the seeds of something far more potent and dangerous. The same hands that prepared meals and tended the sick could, under the right circumstances, wield power over life and death itself. Baba Yaga embodies this potential transformation of domestic feminine authority into supernatural force. She represents what happens when the nurturing mother becomes the terrible crone, when the wise woman's knowledge becomes too dangerous for ordinary society to contain. Her iron teeth can tear flesh as easily as they can chew food. Her bone leg connects her to the realm of death. Her command over the fundamental forces of nature makes her a power to be feared and respected rather than simply loved and obeyed. This transformation reflects the natural cycle of feminine life itself, from maiden to mother to crone. But while the maiden and mother roles are generally accepted and celebrated by society, the crone represents something more challenging and disturbing. She is the woman who has moved beyond the need for male protection or approval, who possesses knowledge and experience that cannot be easily controlled or understood. In traditional societies, such women were often viewed with suspicion and fear, seen as potential threats to established order and authority. Baba Yaga takes this archetypal fear and amplifies it to supernatural proportions. She is the ultimate crone, the wise woman whose wisdom has become so complete and terrible that she exists outside all normal social boundaries. She answers to no king or priest, follows no law except her own ancient code, and serves no master except the fundamental forces of existence itself. She power only represents feminine, ashed from all constraints, free to operate according to its own mysterious and often frightening logic. Yet this freedom comes at a price. Baba Yaga's isolation in the deep forest reflects the cost of such absolute independence. She dwells alone, served only by disembodied hands and supernatural riders, cut off from normal human community and companionship. Her relationships are defined by testing and judgment rather than love and mutual support. She has gained cosmic power but lost human connection, achieving ultimate authority at the expense of ordinary happiness and belonging. This paradox lies at the heart of her character and helps explain her enduring fascination. She represents both the ultimate fulfillment of feminine power and its ultimate limitation. She shows us what women might become if freed from all social constraints, but also reveals the loneliness and isolation that such freedom might entail. She is simultaneously an inspiration and a warning, a figure of empowerment and a cautionary tale about the price of absolute independence. The regional variations of Baba Yaga across different Slavic cultures reveal how adaptable and enduring her archetype has proven to be. In Russian folklore, she often appears as the bone-legged witch who tests heroes and dispenses magical gifts. In Polish traditions, her counterpart Genza serves similar functions but with subtle differences in appearance and behavior. Czech folklore features Jerzy Baba, a related figure who embodies many of the same characteristics while adapting to local cultural conditions. In southern Slavic regions, Baba Yaga sometimes rules an underground kingdom populated by magical horses and supernatural cattle. She commands armies of dark forces and engages in epic battles with legendary warriors, taking on aspects more reminiscent of a war goddess than a forest witch. These variations show how the basic archetype of the powerful feminine supernatural being could be modified to fit different cultural needs and storytelling traditions while maintaining its essential character. What remains constant across all these variations is her fundamental role as a figure of transformation and testing. Whether she appears as a single witch or multiple sisters, whether she dwells in a forest hut or an underground kingdom, whether she offers magical gifts or supernatural challenges, she always serves the same basic function. She is the guardian of thresholds, the keeper of boundaries, the one who determines whether souls are ready to pass from one stage of existence to another. This consistency suggests that Baba Yaga represents something far deeper than a simple folkloric character. She embodies archetypal patterns that speak to fundamental human experiences and psychological needs. Her stories provide a framework for understanding the process of maturation and transformation, particularly for young women who must navigate the dangerous passage from childhood to adulthood in societies that often view feminine power with suspicion and fear. The psychological dimensions of Baba Yaga's character become even more fascinating when we consider her role in the broader context of Slavic spiritual beliefs. In the pre-Christian worldview of these ancient peoples, the forest was not simply a collection of trees and animals, but a living entity possessed of its own consciousness and will. It was a place where the normal rules of reality became fluid, where spirits walked openly among mortals, and where the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the dead grew thin enough to cross. Within this mystical landscape, Baba Yaga serves as more than just a supernatural inhabitant. She functions as the forest's own consciousness made manifest, its intelligence given form and voice. Her hut moves through the woodland not as an intruder, but as an integral part of the ecosystem itself. The chicken legs that carry her dwelling are not merely fantastical elements, but symbols of her deep connection to the natural world, representing the way she exists in harmony with forces that urban civilization has forgotten how to understand. This connection to primordial nature explains why Baba Yaga's tests so often involve tasks that seem to bridge the domestic and the wild. When she commands Vasilisa to sort grain from chaff, she is not simply creating busy work, but demanding that the girl demonstrate her ability to distinguish between what nourishes life and what merely takes up space. The task requires patience, discernment, and the kind of careful attention to detail that successful survival in the wilderness demands. It is both a practical skill and a metaphor for the spiritual discrimination necessary to navigate the complexities of existence. Similarly, when Baba Yaga requires heroes to complete seemingly impossible cleaning tasks, she is testing their willingness to engage in the unglamorous but essential work of maintaining order in the face of chaos. Her hut, despite its supernatural nature, still requires the basic maintenance that any dwelling needs. Floors must be swept, meals must be prepared, and living spaces must be kept habitable. These mundane requirements persist even in the realm of magic, suggesting that true wisdom involves mastering both the extraordinary and the ordinary aspects of existence. The disembodied hands that serve as Baba Yaga's helpers add another layer of meaning to her domestic arrangements. These floating appendages represent labor divorced from personal identity, work performed without ego or individual will. They accomplish their tasks efficiently and without complaint, embodying an ideal of selfless service that stands in stark contrast to the petty jealousies and personal ambitions that often motivate human behavior. Yet their very disembodiment also suggests something unsettling about this arrangement, hinting at the cost of such perfect efficiency and the loss of human connection that comes with reducing workers to mere tools. The seasonal aspects of Baba Yaga's character reveal another dimension of her complexity. Many of her stories take place during autumn or winter, times when the natural world is entering its dormant phase, and the veil between life and death becomes thinnest. Her association with these darker months connects her to the ancient understanding of time as cyclical rather than linear, where death is not an ending, but a necessary prelude to rebirth and renewal. This seasonal symbolism helps explain why Baba Yaga's gifts so often prove more valuable than they initially appear. The skull lantern she gives to Vasilisa burns with the fire of supernatural justice, but it also illuminates truth in the darkness of human deception. The magical horses she sometimes bestows upon worthy heroes possess not only speed and strength, but also the wisdom to guide their riders away from danger and toward their destinies. Her rewards transform their recipients, not through simple wish fulfillment, but by providing them with the tools they need to transform themselves. The economic implications of Baba Yaga's character are equally revealing. In her domain, value is determined not by material wealth or social status, but by character and capability. She cares nothing for gold or jewels, but pays careful attention to how visitors treat her servants, whether they show proper respect for her home, and how they respond to challenges and setbacks. This alternative value system offers a critique of conventional society's priorities, suggesting that true worth lies in qualities that cannot be bought or inherited, but must be earned through struggle and growth. Her practice of setting impossible tasks that become possible through supernatural aid reflects of human potential, an understanding that goes beyond ordinary limitations. The assistance provided by Vasilisa's doll, or by Baba Yaga's own magical helpers, suggests that individuals who approach challenges with the right attitude and preparation can access resources and capabilities they never knew they possessed. The magic in these stories often represents the extraordinary things that become possible when people move beyond their assumed limitations and tap into deeper sources of strength and wisdom. The gender dynamics embedded in Baba Yaga's character become particularly complex when we consider her relationship to traditional feminine roles. She embodies aspects of the nurturing mother through her provision of food and shelter, but she subverts these roles by making her care conditional on the recipient's worthiness. Her hospitality is not automatic or unconditional, but must be earned through demonstration of character and capability. This represents a radical departure from conventional expectations of feminine behavior, which typically emphasize selfless giving, regardless of the recipient's merit or gratitude. Her iron teeth and bone leg mark her as a figure who has moved beyond conventional beauty standards and social expectations about feminine appearance. She is not trying to attract a mate or maintain her position through physical appeal, but has embraced a form of power that exists independent of male approval or desire. This transformation suggests that true feminine strength often requires abandoning society's superficial requirements and embracing aspects of oneself that may be considered frightening or unacceptable by conventional standards. The technological aspects of Baba Yaga's magical implements deserve closer examination as well. Her mortar and pestle, transformed from tools of food preparation into vehicles of flight, represent the way traditional feminine knowledge can be elevated to supernatural levels. The grinding action of these implements was essential to processing grains and preparing medicines, activities that sustained life and promoted healing. By using them for flight, Baba Yaga demonstrates that domestic wisdom, properly understood and applied, contains within it the power to transcend ordinary limitations. Her broom, used to sweep away her tracks, serves multiple symbolic functions. On one level, it represents the desire for privacy and the protection of secrets, ensuring that her methods and destinations remain hidden from those who might misuse such knowledge. On another level, it symbolizes the erasure of conventional paths and expectations, suggesting that true wisdom often requires abandoning established routes and creating new ways of moving through the world. The fence of human bones that surrounds her domain tells its own story about the nature of spiritual testing and the consequences of failure. Each skull and bone represents an individual who attempted the journey toward transformation but could not complete it successfully. Yet rather than simply representing failure, these remains serve as a warning system for future travelers, providing information about the seriousness of the challenge ahead and the importance of proper preparation. The fact that the skulls burn with supernatural fire suggests that even in death, these failed candidates continue to serve a purpose within Baba Yaga's domain. Their sacrifice was not meaningless, but contributes to the overall functioning of her realm, providing illumination and warning for those who come after. This transforms the apparent cruelty of their fate into a form of posthumous service, suggesting that even unsuccessful attempts at transformation can serve the greater good. The three riders who serve Baba Yaga, embodying day, sun, and night, represent forces that operate on a scale far beyond human comprehension or control. Their presence in her service indicates that she commands not merely local magical phenomena, but cosmic principles that govern the fundamental rhythms of existence. This positions her as a figure whose authority extends across all levels of reality, from the most intimate domestic concerns to the grandest celestial mechanics. Their appearance to Vasilisa during her journey serves multiple narrative functions. On one level, they provide signs that she is entering increasingly supernatural territory, preparing her for the otherworldly encounter ahead. On another level, they demonstrate the scope of the power she is about to confront, ensuring that she understands the magnitude of both the opportunity and the danger before her. Their beauty and majesty also serve as a counterpoint to Baba Yaga's more frightening aspects, suggesting that her domain contains wonders as well as terrors. The timing of their appearances, corresponding to the natural progression of day into night, reinforces the connection between Baba Yaga's realm and the natural cycles that govern all life. She is not separate from nature, but intimately connected to its deepest patterns and rhythms. Her power flows not from opposition to natural law, but from perfect alignment with forces that most humans can barely perceive, much less command. This cosmic aspect of her character helps explain why encounters with Baba Yaga so often result in permanent transformation rather than simple temporary assistance. She operates on a scale of time and consequence that extends far beyond immediate human concerns. Her gifts and curses alike tend to unfold over years or even generations, reshaping not just individual lives, but entire family lines and community structures. This long-term perspective reflects an understanding of existence that encompasses cycles of growth, decay, death, and rebirth that dwarf ordinary human planning and ambition. The linguistic evolution of Baba Yaga's name across different Slavic cultures reveals how her character has adapted to local conditions while maintaining essential characteristics. The various meanings Yaga, indifferent attributed to languages, suggest that her name itself contains multiple layers of significance, allowing different communities to emphasize aspects of her character that resonate most strongly with their particular cultural needs and concerns. In regions where warfare and conflict were constant threats, the connections to words meaning anger and fury became prominent, positioning her as a figure whose power could be called upon in times of extreme danger. In areas where disease and natural disaster posed the greatest challenges, the associations with illness and suffering gained importance, making her a figure who could potentially provide protection against forces beyond human control. This linguistic flexibility reflects the broader adaptability of her character, allowing her to serve different functions for different communities while maintaining her essential role as a figure of transformation and testing. She becomes whatever each culture needs her to be, while remaining fundamentally herself, a testament to the enduring power of archetypal figures to speak to universal human experiences across widely varying circumstances. The preservation of Baba Yaga's stories through oral tradition before their eventual recording in written form speaks to their fundamental importance in Slavic culture. These tales were not mere entertainment, but served essential social and psychological functions, providing frameworks for understanding the challenges of maturation and the processes of personal transformation. They offered models for navigating difficult passages in life and guidance for recognizing and developing inner resources that might otherwise remain dormant. The fact that these stories survived the transition from oral to written culture and later endured the suppression of traditional beliefs during periods of religious and political upheaval demonstrates their deep roots in human psychological needs that transcend specific cultural arrangements. They speak to experiences and challenges that remain relevant across centuries and continue to resonate with audiences far removed from their original cultural context. This enduring relevance suggests that Baba Yaga represents more than just a product of ancient Slavic imagination. She embodies patterns of experience and understanding that speak to fundamental aspects of human nature and development. Her stories provide insights into the process of psychological maturation, the development of wisdom and discernment, and the complex relationship between power and responsibility that remain as relevant today as they were centuries ago, when these tales first began to be told around winter fires in the deep forests of Eastern Europe. The modern world has struggled to know what to make of Baba Yaga. In an age that prefers its heroes clearly good and its villains obviously evil, she presents a troubling ambiguity that resists easy categorization. Contemporary retellings of her stories often attempt to simplify her character, transforming her into either a straightforward antagonist to be defeated or a benevolent mentor figure who guides protagonists toward happy endings. But these sanitized versions miss the essential complexity that makes her such a powerful and enduring figure. Recent feminist scholarship has attempted to reclaim Baba Yaga as a symbol of female empowerment, emphasizing her independence, her refusal to conform to traditional gender roles, and her command over supernatural forces. These interpretations highlight valid aspects of her character, particularly her embodiment of feminine power that exists outside patriarchal control, and her role as a figure who validates women's wisdom and capabilities. Her stories do indeed offer powerful models of female agency and authority that challenge conventional limitations placed on women's roles and abilities. Yet even these well-intentioned reinterpretations risk reducing her multifaceted nature to fit contemporary political frameworks. Baba Yaga's power lies not in being simply empowering or simply terrifying, but in being both simultaneously. She represents the full spectrum of feminine potential, from nurturing wisdom to destructive fury, from life-giving creativity to death-dealing judgment. To diminish any aspect of her character in service of modern sensibilities is to lose something essential about what she represents and why her stories have endured for so many centuries. The psychological insights embedded in Baba Yaga's tales remain remarkably relevant to contemporary understanding of human development and transformation. Modern depth psychology recognizes many of the same patterns that her stories explore, particularly the necessity of confronting fear and uncertainty as part of the maturation process. The trials she sets for her visitors mirror the challenges that individuals must overcome to develop genuine wisdom and inner strength. Her role as a figure who tests worthiness through impossible tasks reflects an understanding that true growth often requires individuals to transcend their assumed limitations and discover capabilities they never knew they possessed. The magical assistance that worthy protagonists receive in her stories can be understood as representing the extraordinary resources that become available when people approach challenges with the right attitude, preparation, and willingness to persevere despite apparent impossibility. The symbolic significance of her dwelling place continues to resonate in contemporary discussions of liminality and threshold experiences. Her hut on chicken legs, standing at the boundary between worlds, represents those crucial moments in life when individuals must choose between remaining in familiar but limiting circumstances or venturing into unknown territory that offers the possibility of transformation. The fact that the hut must be approached with proper knowledge and respectful ritual speaks to the importance of preparation and mindfulness when facing life's major transitions. Her fence of human bones, while gruesome, serves as a powerful metaphor for the real consequences of inadequate preparation or improper motivation when undertaking significant personal challenges. Not everyone who attempts transformation succeeds, and failure can indeed be devastating. Yet the fact that these remains continue to serve a function within her domain, providing warning and illumination for future travelers, suggests that even unsuccessful attempts at growth can contribute something valuable to the collective human experience. The three riders who serve her, representing the fundamental forces of day, sun, and night, embody the cosmic scale of the changes that genuine transformation involves. Personal growth is not simply a matter of individual effort, but requires alignment with larger patterns and rhythms that operate beyond conscious control. Her command over these forces suggests that successful transformation involves learning to work in harmony with natural cycles rather than attempting to impose artificial timelines or expectations. The economic and social implications of her stories remain equally relevant in contemporary contexts. Her indifference to conventional markers of wealth and status, combined with her careful attention to character and behavior, offers a critique of value systems that prioritize material accumulation over personal development. In an age increasingly concerned with authenticity and meaningful achievement, her emphasis on earning rewards through demonstrated worthiness rather than inherited privilege or purchased advantage provides a refreshing alternative perspective. So we return to that original question posed at the edge of the dark forest. Who is Baba Yaga? The answer, like the witch herself, refuses to be simple or easily contained. She is the ancient goddess disguised as a folkloric crone. She is the wise woman whose wisdom has grown too dangerous for ordinary society. She is the guardian of thresholds who determines whether souls are ready to cross from one stage of existence to another. She is the mirror that reflects our deepest fears about power, transformation, and the price of true independence. But perhaps most importantly, she is the enduring reminder that the most profound truths about human nature are often hidden within the stories that frighten us most. Her tales continue to whisper across the centuries, carrying with them the ancient wisdom of a people who understood that growth requires courage, that wisdom demands sacrifice, and that the path to transformation always leads through the darkest part of the forest. In a world that increasingly seeks simple answers to complex questions, Baba Yaga stands as a testament to the power and necessity of embracing the contradictions that make us human.